All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this session, this workshop. My name is Edgar Beas. I am a graduate diversity officer for the Office of the Graduate Division on campus. I'm really excited to be invited back to do this presentation and to just be here with all of you. I will be talking today about graduate school, the path towards graduate school. And I'll be talking about essentials and what kinds of things I believe and we believe is important for you to know about the concept and the journey, you know, if that's what you like to do to get into grad school. So this workshop will cover basics, and it will also cover a little more specifics into what grad school, what you can do to get ahead and to potentially start your journey towards grad school. Okay, so I'm glad that you're joining us. I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that you're interested. The fact that you're here goes a long way, right? It means that you are curious about this topic and that you've potentially heard some things about grad school, and or you might be already decided that you want to do this. So welcome. Let me go ahead and get myself set up here really quickly, and we'll get started. All right. I'm going to share my screen and let's get going. So as I mentioned, today I'm going to be talking about what comes next, right? What comes after the bachelor's degree. So we've titled this session Beyond the Bachelor's Degree. You're all, as UC San Diego students, there's resources and there's things that you can do on campus to get ahead, right? And to start working towards achieving that goal, right? That is essentially getting into grad school in the future. So let's start. This is my contact information. This is my name. And I'll be providing this at the end of the presentation as well. So if you like to reach out, I'm always available on campus. You know, like to answer any of your questions, and feel free to please contact me. First thing that I like to do is to kind of open the floor or to allow you to participate in this with me. So I like you to type up on the chat or unmute your mic and just tell me, what have you heard about grad school? What is it that you know about grad school? It could be something small, such as a detail about grad school, or you could be something big, right? Maybe if you have not heard anything about grad school, this is a new concept for you, type it up, let me know. It's important to also recognize that we don't know anything about it, and I mean, the fact that you're here is exactly for that, right? So we're gonna hopefully give you some more information about it. But what have you heard about grad school? Please go ahead and type it up in the chat, unmute your mic. I want to know. I'm going to go ahead and be reading through the answers. Thank you. Thank you for all the answers. This is really good. Okay, yes. It's very competitive. I've heard it's impossible, difficult to get into grad school.
I've heard that it's research based, like it's very it's heavy on research.
Okay. Yes, thank you, Claudia.
I've heard that it gives you better opportunities in jobs and like you're more competitive in the job market.
Yes, thank you.
I'm sure this depends on your major, but like, you know, I feel like it allows you to dive into more of like a concentrated field of like something like you get to write a dissertation and you're really kind of like carving out your own, just like your own studies and like something that's just more concentrated towards what you want to do.
Yes, thank you. That's right, thank you. Reading through the answers here, you can obtain a master's, you can as much on campus and grad school compared to your undergrad years, that's right. Personally, I know that clinical psychology programs are very competitive, expensive, very competitive and expensive, need recommendations, competitive and difficult. Competitive is definitely one of those common concepts right across, so thank you for sharing. It takes a lot of hard work, especially with research and recommendations. Grad schools are very hands-on depending on the subject, far more specialized. Yes, 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 those are all right. Anybody else? Okay. Yes, so essentially, you know, a lot of times we hear things that are based off of someone's experience, right? But I think what you all expressed in the chat and through participating and speaking out, it's all true and in some ways, right? And we're gonna go ahead and break it down once we go into the presentation at different points, right? So we'll talk about the research aspect and how you can better prepare yourself to get there and to be better qualified and to have better experience for grad school. Those that mentioned that is competitive, yes, depending on the program, depending on the field, some fields and some programs are more competitive. That's right. Expensive, we'll talk a little bit about funding and a little bit about how to pay for it, but and the distinction between one degree versus another and how typically that will get. So we'll talk about that a little bit. And those that said that is far more specialized, you're all right. Yes. Basically, as you make your progress towards achieving the terminal degree for your field, you're definitely going to get more specialized, and you're definitely going to, get a little more concentrated into a topic within your field and within your area. So it is definitely true. For those that say that they don't know that much, of course, as well, I mean, this is exactly where you're here, and thank you for being, honest about that too. The fact about recommendations is important as well, and I'll mention something about it when we get into what you could be doing as you make your progress in your time here at UCSD. Okay, cool. One last thing I'd like to know from you before we get going, I kind of want to get a feel for the room and who's here. Can you please type in the chat if you are, what year are you in, basically, at UC San Diego? Whether you're a junior, senior, sophomore, freshman. I'd like to know our audience today. We have a good mix. Okay. Keep those answers coming. All right. We definitely have a good mix. So I think the presentation that we have for you, it covers, the big range of years that we have today here. So information is going to be useful for all of you. Incoming transfer students as well. Thank you. All right. Let's get going and let's start talking about grad school. So these are some of the common myths, right? And I think I clarified some of them. And sometimes we hear people asking themselves, when is the right time to go to grad school? And, based on experiences and based on personal experiences and experiences that I've had with other students going to grad school, there's not a right time. And I think there's a time where you're prepared to go to grad school, right? And I think that is, if you would like to kind of think of a right time, that is the right time. The right time is whenever you're preparing, you feel yourself prepared for grad school. But I think if you kind of look at this question and you kind of just say like, you know, is there a better time than other time to go to grad school? Is it better to go after I graduate from my bachelor's, or is it better that I wait 5 years and then I go back to school, right? There's not a right time. I think you prepare yourself for that if that's something that you like to do, and there's paths to get there. The same area of study as undergrad. Sometimes I hear too that students think that they need to go to grad school to do a master's or a doctoral program. If they're a bio student, they need to go to bio, right? Or they need to, and in some cases, it does apply that you need to generally be within the field, right? There's areas within a certain field, right? Like biological science is a big field, right? But there's areas within it that, so if you are a student in microbiology or biology, right, and you're applying to a chem program, some chemistry programs might have might be open to having bio students, right? So again, it really depends, but I like to break kind of this myth that you need to transition right into the same program that you're into your bachelor's, right? That's not right. That's not correct. I guess I'm breaking that myth for you. That grad school it's only for some people, right? It's only for some that are looking for a specific career, right? And it's not specifically for me. Maybe, you know, I have all their goals. I think grad school is open to anybody, and anybody who's curious and who would like to get more specialized in their field. And there are some incentives to doing grad school, and we'll talk about that in the next few slides. I've heard it's too expensive. We talked about this, and I'll talk a little more in detail when we get into the differences between the programs. And I've heard it's demanding and difficult. It is a demanding and it is difficult. This, I can't, you know, say that I'm breaking this myth, but I think I'm just confirming you that it gets more challenging, but it gets more challenging in an interesting way, if you would put it in a certain in a phrase, right? It's just like for people that are wanting to get more specialized in their field, and you have questions, right, that you like to answer and to kind of be curious about a certain topic. It is, you know, it is interesting to get into grad school, right? Because you'll find new things and you'll learn more things, but it comes with a certain level of demand and difficulty, right? That is essentially built into the degree. So let's get, you know, kind of started in just defining the concept, right? Because we said that we have a broad range of individuals in this room, right? That might be familiar with grad school or not. So graduate school is essentially graduate education encompasses research, study, and teaching beyond the bachelor's degree. So it's everything that happens, right, within these kind of broad terms: research, study, and teaching beyond the bachelor's degree. Okay, so that is essentially the concept of grad school. Some differences between undergraduate and graduate, and I think some of you mentioned a couple of these, is that in undergrad, you are often surrounded in classes and in specific, especially upper division courses, by people that might have similar interests as right. But as we mentioned, right, graduate is more specialized, is more focused on a certain area or topic. So you'll be surrounded in that graduate program by like-minded individuals and people who are curious about generally the same topics as you are, right? Classes are much more interactive. Classes in grad school tend to be a lot more like meetings, like meetings where you basically are in a room with peers, and faculty treat you more as peers than actual students, right? You have to think on a different level. There's definitely a bigger, you know, a more demanding level of 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 thinking and rationale and of critical thinking that you need to implement in grad school. Definitely, there's more time spent researching and writing, so this is true. In grad school, oftentimes, you know, most of the doctoral program is spent writing and researching. In a master's program, we'll talk about the differences again, but in a master's program, it essentially could be also part of research and doing a lot of that depending on the field. There's less structure and more freedom as far as the courses and as far as the structure of the program. So one of the biggest differences from undergrad to grad is that when you go into a grad program, they often hand you the, if you would say, the classes or the schedule of classes that you need to take in X number of years that you need to complete your degree, right? So if you're in a master's program, which is 2 or 3 years, they'll hand you a little paper with the list of courses and the order in which they recommend that you take them, right? So it is structured in that way, but it provides a lot more freedom because there's some courses that are courses in research, for example, right? So they don't specifically give you the topic that you need to study, but that you are then asked to propose a topic that you need to do in that particular class, right? So we'll talk about that a little bit. And then professors treat you more like peers than students. We talked about this. The biggest difference from undergraduate, from your bachelor's degree to anything beyond the bachelor's degree is that graduate students create new knowledge. So essentially, and this takes a lot more place in terminal degrees, right? A terminal degree essentially is the last degree that you could obtain in your field or area. So if you are a student that is interested in the arts, right? A master's in the arts is considered a terminal degree. So there's rare doctoral degrees in art, depending on the specifics, right? But oftentimes in performing arts, for example, the MFA, the Master's in Fine Arts, is the last terminal degree that you get. But where I'm going with this is whether you're in an MFA, a Master of Fine Arts, or in a doctoral program, right, in a Doctor of Philosophy program, the PhD program that they call, you are creating new knowledge, right? So that is where the research piece, right, that ties into the writing for you to be able to develop a dissertation, right? So you're essentially grabbing a question or a topic or something that you're curious about in your area, right? And you are researching that aspect and that topic. And then you are making conclusions, making experiments, trying to create new knowledge for future generations. So essentially, that is the biggest difference, right? In undergrad, we go through undergrad, we learn about our fields, and we become somewhat of experts, right, in the field. But I think you become a full expert once you complete your graduate degree. There's different pathways into grad school, and we'll be talking today about the one that that if you would like to prepare yourself for the one that goes straight into grad school, right? But there's other pathways, and I talked about being, you know, the right time and when is it that it's better for you to go to grad school. Again, it really depends on your situation and your in your field, but essentially after you complete your bachelor's, there you have options, right? There's people that go into industry, they work in companies, right? And they work for so many years. Then the opportunity for them to complete a grad school comes up, and then they go into grad school 5, 6, 7, 10 years after they completed their bachelor's. There's people that go straight into grad school because they know, they're clear about their goal. They kind of, you know, they were told this is the right to go. This is the right way to go if you want to become an academic, if you want to be, you know, in a better place, you know, 3, 4 years from now. And then there's the option where in between, you're getting experience, and you're taking some gap years, that they call them, right? These are very specific. This is a term that implies that you're taking intention and that you are clear about what you're going to do in those gap years, whether that's 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years. That's usually the time that some of these individuals plan for them to get into grad school, right? So they're gaining experience in many different ways. Let's talk about types of graduate degrees so we can kind of, frame all of our conversation today. So there's two main types of graduate degrees or programs, and we have the master's degrees and the doctoral degrees, right? So going off, I'm going to compare each of these bullet points. So the master's degree is typically 1 to 2 years, at the most 3. And a doctoral degree is usually 5 to 7 full-time, 5 to 7 years full-time. Master's degree usually is coursework based, so you receive a list of courses that you need to take, right? And it's usually anywhere from like 15 to 20 courses that you need to take in those 2 years. And a doctoral degree, typically you take classes and courses only in the first couple of years, maybe even less. And then after that, you spend it doing research and writing. Then on your master's degree, you're typically asked to put together a thesis, but sometimes there's other culminating projects that you need to complete. So it is not always a thesis, right? And a thesis is just a piece of work, of writing that you're putting together after you do research. And then your doctoral degree, it's all about the research, right? So you're doing research in the time that you're in the doctoral degree, depending on the field, right? So I'm generally speaking, but depending on the field, if we get more specific, right? There's sciences, in the sciences, there's way more research that is on site and that requires experiments. And so research really looks different in each field. So I'm just generalizing that it's all about the research, typically in a doctoral degree. And then the final requirement for a master's degree is a comprehensive exam or a project. And in a doctoral degree is a doctoral dissertation and a defense of that dissertation. In the bottom, you can see, depending on the field, from a degree may be a master's or doctorate. This is the concept that I was talking about, especially under the example of the fine arts. Love Walker asks, does the PsyD fall under the PhD guidelines or different? It does. The PsyD is a particular type of doctorate, and for the EDD, for example, also falls kind of, and that's the program that I'm mentioning there in the slide. It is an education doctorate, and there are different types of doctorate, right? So, but they will fall generally within the description of the doctoral degree, but it is a more, it is a more specific kind of doctoral degree. It would be considered a terminal degree, so that I would definitely compare it to a doctoral. So after you kind of have this knowledge, right, base knowledge, and why should you consider grad school? And there's various reasons why you should, right? There's each and every one of you will have a particular reason why you want to pursue grad school, right? It might be because really you want to continue on, and this is something that you feel strongly about, right? And that you might be a first-gen student who is wanting to kind of go above and beyond and really, kind of explore that graduate school option. You might be someone who has the example at home that you want to kind of continue on those steps. There might be other reasons other than personal, right? There might be professional reasons. So again, personal goals. It is a good way for you to expand career opportunities. It is a good way for you to meet certain professional standards. So, for example, in order to become a professional standard might mean that you will get a certain seniority position within your organization or industry. So in order to achieve that seniority or supervisory, you only need a master's program, right? A master's degree. So there's certain professional standards that you need to meet, right? Another example, a very clear example, is that in order to be a lawyer or to study law, you need to have a JD, a Juris Doctorate degree, right? So you can't be a lawyer if you study law or policy in undergrad, right? So again, there's certain professional standards. Also, if you want to conduct research, and if that's something that you're curious about and that you've done partly and you've got some experience, that's something that you can continue on doing in grad school. And then also, if you want to become an academic, a scientist, someone who is an expert in their field, someone who wants to teach that field, definitely getting a graduate degree will give you more opportunities. Let's talk about some national statistics and data, because this is something important, right? When we think of grad school, we often think of what's our goal, right? What are our goals? What do we want to get to? And but I think it is important to look at national statistics and data to see where it falls, right? Where are most of the students in the United States? Where are they at, right? So this graph is looking at individuals with a graduate degree, right? So this is data from 2017, is a couple of years old, but essentially it's just saying like how many young adults have a graduate degree, right? Have a completed graduate degree. So 8% of women aged 18 to 34 have had or have a graduate degree as of 2017 versus 5% of men, right? The educational attainment is important to look at as well. This graph is looking at a years basically comparison, right, from 2000 all the way to 2018, right, of the attainment of certain degrees, right? So the blue is the bachelor's degree, the orange is the master's, the gray is the professional degree, and a yellow is the doctoral degree. Anything above the orange is grad school, right? So population 25 and over who have completed a bachelor's degree or higher from 2000 to 2018. And as we can see, right, the size of these graphs has been increasing, especially in the master's program and also in the doctoral. If you can see, professional degrees have pretty much stayed constant and the same. Professional degree I didn't mention, but professional degree, just to make parentheses, professional degrees entice or basically are degrees like an MBA, a Master's of Business Administration. Some of these degrees that are required in the profession, and that they're more similar to a master's degree than to a doctoral degree, right? Yeah, Julia, thank you for your question. So this is another graph, right? Just to kind of illustrate the point of more people are getting into graduate degrees as time has gone by in the last 18 years. Median earnings also is important to analyze, right? So median earnings by educational attainment, this is data from the US Census Bureau, and it basically just says that as you go on, median earning will go up with your educational attainment, right? So bachelor's to graduate. And this is, again, very broad, very generalized, because it's not looking at at specific fields, right? There might be other fields, certain fields that this graph might be very different. So we're just kind of illustrating the concept of attaining a graduate degree will generally earn you or make you earn more money. Okay, cool. So let's now put ourselves into a situation where we say, you know what, Edgar, thank you for the information. You know, after looking at and asking questions to my faculty, or to ask, you know, talking to friends or whatever, you know, after doing some reflection, I think I want to do grad school. I think, you know, especially because of my goals and because of where I want to do and where I want to go, I want to do grad school. So let me talk to you about what are some things that you could do while you're a student here at UC San Diego that might benefit you, right? So let's talk about what you could be doing, right? So essentially, we're going to be exploring and talking about this conversation in the frame of this particular pathway, this particular route, the undergrad to grad, right? Because we like to think that you're getting ready and you're getting prepared to apply to grad school, right? Right before you graduate, And then once you graduate, you're transitioning into grad school, right? So we're gonna go ahead and talk about that. But take this advice, right? And even if this is not the pathway that you want to pursue, take this advice and apply it towards the pathway, right? So if you're thinking of applying to grad school 2 years, right, or taking a year off after you graduate, perfect. But continue on this pathway because this is going to take you to do things now rather than later. So I don't know if you believe it, but this is the less common path. And this is something that is often a misconception among students, thinking that, oh my God, everyone is going to grad school right out of undergrad. That's not true. That's the less common path. So there's a lot more students, waiting a year or two, to get into grad school, or more years to get into grad school, than those students who are transitioning into grad school, right? But it takes a lot of, it is a less common path because it requires a lot of different things, right? The first one is knowing your goals and where you want to go, right? So I think a student who is grounded and knows where they're going and knows what field and what area within their field they want to study is more inclined to apply to graduate school right off the bat, right after they complete their bachelor's. Understanding how will graduate school be different from undergrad. So, being in spaces where you can talk to students who have been in graduate school, understanding just you being in the space, learning about the differences between one and another, I think is important, right? Tuition costs, funding availability. This is something that could potentially be a factor, right, into whether you apply now or you wait some years, right? And we'll talk about that in a moment. Early planning is in college is key. So the planning part is what we're going to talk about right now. Some of the benefits, right, of taking on this route and this pathway of going straight into grad school is that the sooner you begin, obviously, the sooner you'll finish. Taking advantage of the momentum that you come from undergraduate is important, right? It could be stressful. The transition could be stressful and it could be challenging. I'm not going to lie to you, but people take advantage of that momentum, right? Using the relationships that you have with faculty. And someone said at the beginning, recommendations and having recommendations. This is one thing. This is one aspect that if you are interested in grad school, I would consider highly, right? So as you're going through UC San Diego's time, right? And as you're interacting with faculty, right? And there's different tips on how to create a relationship with faculty that will enhance it enough that you're able to ask for a letter of recommendation afterwards, right? There's many resources online, so I'm not going to talk a lot about that right now, but that is important, right? That is important to have a relationship with faculty as you're going specifically through your years here at UC San Diego, because those faculty are going to recommend you, right? Having enough credentials and experience. So this is also another aspect. It's like, how much experience, how many credentials are you getting now in order to be better qualified for a particular program. So this is just a general graph, right? And feel free to take a screenshot of this. Feel free to just read through it with me, and let's just talk about it. So the first is freshman and sophomore years. These are years that are just essential of exploration for you, of settling, transitioning into the university. So the big parts here are maintaining good grades, making sure that you seek co-curricular opportunities such as becoming involved into an organization, right? Visiting the career center is always good to talk early with career advisors to make sure that you can understand your career and your field and what you want to do. Conducting undergraduate research is important, right? Even if you're kind of just starting to making sense of what you want to research, right? But I think we'll talk about looking for opportunities to do undergraduate research, and then apply to graduate preparation programs. And this is something that we're going to talk about. These are oftentimes good tools that will allow you to get prepared in order to apply and to be better off at applying to grad school and actually getting admitted. In your junior and senior years, what we recommend is obviously maintaining good GPA is always important. Grades and GPA are important. Taking leadership opportunities, getting to know faculty, making sure that you're building relationships in those upper division courses more specifically. And they are also considering summer research programs, right? So get some experience in research, specifically if you want to go into a doctoral degree. They often ask you and require you to have some research experience, talking to current undergraduate students on campus. And then as a senior, if you're applying to grad school and you're transitioning into grad school, the senior year is the year that you apply, right? And you continue to make good progress throughout the year, involved in discipline-specific organizations. And if you have the opportunity to showcase research in a conference or through a program, that will be a good year to have, right? Gracia asks, when is the time to take entry tests like GRE or MCAT or LSAT? I think the perfect time, or in my view, the perfect time to do this is the springtime or the winter time of your junior year. That would be my recommendation, because that will give you enough time to potentially repeat the exam if you like to, right? Or enough time before the applications come in the fall and you have to submit scores. Right, so that would be the ideal time in my view, right? But it is different with everyone, right? So if you're not thinking of applying right after undergrad, then you might want to wait. All right, so in the last slide, I talked about graduate preparation programs, and these are programs that are available on campus, that are available outside of campus, and we'll talk about that. So when you're looking for graduate preparation programs, you're also looking for enrichment programs, right? Programs that kind of look at other aspects outside of your classes and your academics to make sure that you're a well-rounded student, right? So enrichment programs, they're often called. These are grant or university funded programs, and they may include a research component depending on the field. They also prepare you and provide you skills in professional development, such as leadership, such as organizational skills, other types of skills, communication skills, etc. They provide a support network of like-minded peers. They provide a faculty, staff, and peers who understand your background. And there might be some financial support attached to those programs for your undergraduate. In order to, when we think of, let me go back. When we think of, I'm sorry, 1 second. When we think of graduate preparation programs, there's essentially 2 ways that you can go about this. So the first one is getting research experience outside of UC San Diego, right? So looking into these opportunities, these are often called research experiences for undergraduate students, REU. And these are opportunities that might be open to anyone to apply at a particular institution. So the way that I would recommend you to look for these, specifically just in a search engine such as Google or anywhere in the internet, is by typing up something like your field and the acronym REU, right? Or the acronym REU and the word Stanford, in this case, like the institution, or summer research, UC Berkeley, right? These are all ways to search in Google for REU opportunities. Of REU opportunities, and this is through the NSF, the National Science Foundation. This is a website that I could share in the chat right now. I'll probably do it at the end, so I don't have to exit out of the presentation, but I'll share. For those who are in STEM, opportunities.sacnas.org is a good site. Sorry if it cut off a little bit. I was saying for STEM opportunities board.sacnas.org, that's a good page, and cientificolatino.com.reu. This is another page for those of you who are in the STEM fields. Now, if that is, we talked about how to do or how to look for opportunities to do research outside, but you're an undergrad student here, right? So there's opportunities for you to do research here on campus, right? And this is through a structured graduate preparation program, right? So we're not talking here about you spoke with your faculty member or with a professor, and then you got invited by that professor to participate in research with them. We're not talking about that. We're talking about getting undergraduate experience in research through a program. So the Office of Undergraduate Research is assigned to broaden the educational experience through a variety of programs, conferences, and scholarships. And this is their website, undergradresearch.ucz.edu. Is a database. It includes a database. Thank you, Kimberly, for that link. And the ugresearch.ucz.edu, it's a good database of all programs that are in the campus that you can apply to as a student. Okay. So this is a good way to getting research. It's never early to start pursuing this. So if you're a freshman, sophomore, go ahead and apply. Getting involved in a student organization is really, really important as well, right? Involving yourself and getting engaged in organizations outside of your courses and your classes, right? So there's a whole database of student organizations, and we have a lot of different types of student organizations: academic, cultural, political, social student organizations. So we have all kinds, right? So take a look at this site, studentorg.ucz.edu, and find more information there. Oh, thank you, Kimberly, for all the help. One last thing that I like to mention, and this is something that has become more and more popular more recently, and these are the combined degree programs. So we have bachelor's and master's degrees that are offered at UC San Diego, more specifically in the areas of global policy and strategy, bioengineering, biology, computer science, electrical engineering, physics, SIO, marine biology, structural engineering. Sorry, that last bullet point, I think it basically is a typo from a different presentation. But the bachelor's and master's degree is typically 5 years full-time. So what happens is that you go through your bachelor's and then you stay an extra year to complete your master's. You get admitted quarterly to this master's degrees, and you can contact your department with more specifics, and they can give you. You generally apply junior year. So if you're a junior now or rising junior year, this is a year that you need to apply. And there's typically a final requirement such as a comp exam or a project. But you graduate in 5 years with your graduate degree, with a master's degree. Now, we talked about the case, right, of graduate school and why you should or why you would want to pursue graduate school, especially going into grad school after you finish your undergrad, right? But as I said, that is not the only pathway. That is not, it is essentially a less common pathway. So these are some reasons why people may want to wait and may want to say, you know what, I want to complete my bachelor's. I want to maybe go get some experience. And so these are some of the reasons why. So the first one is you may not have the experience, the preparation, or the skills needed for grad school, right? So after you do some research and you look up your particular graduate program that you want to pursue, and you say, you know what, they're asking for all candidates to have a particular number of years in industry, then you need to go get that, right? So again, that's one reason why you may want to wait, right? And spend maybe a couple of years attaining that experience. And for the second, credentials for admission, but you can get there, right? So you can attain more experience. You can get more research even after you complete your bachelor's. There's post-bac programs, post-baccalaureate programs that could give you the experience that you need in order to get admitted into a grad program. you may miss on earning some money and working professionally in the real world, right? And if that's something that you want to do and something you're curious about, that you definitely want to have an opportunity to do, then, good. Go get that experience, go earn that money, and then come back if you wish in the next few years. Cool. And lastly, I think I have some takeaways here because we're closing off the presentation, so we can move on to have a discussion or a Q&A. But some of the key takeaways is, I mentioned at the beginning, the right time, as I said, it is whenever you're prepared, right? So essentially, it's also when you know that you could be a successful graduate student, right? So if there's experience and credentials backing you up and you have kind of the desire to go and pursue this, then you're ready, right? And then that's the right time when you should go and pursue graduate school, right? So these are just some tips and takeaways, right, for any of you and for everyone of you who is a student here. It's always good to put yourself first and to advocate for yourself. There's always some energy and some resources that go with that, right? So you have to spend time doing some reflection, asking questions, making sure that you can, formulate a desire inside of you to pursue this, right? So it's always good to, after you've decided to explore this option, to nurture a good academic support system, right? To make sure that you can have conversations, relationships with faculty, with professors in this case, with other students, with other grad students, whoever the case may be, in your area. It will be important. Look and apply for opportunities while in college. So this is a good time, again, for you to advocate for yourself, to make sure that you can get there by applying to opportunities that are in front of you. And to just keep a curious and flexible mindset as you're going through it, right? Because it's always, and I think one of the most common things that I hear from undergrad, and me being in those shoes as well, when I was going through it, is there's a lot of noise and there's often a lot of people, right, telling you, oh, this is what you should do, right? Or this is what I'm doing. And then you kind of just think about it and you're like, oh, this sounds cool. I want to do this too. But it might not be something that you might want to do at the end, right? So, or that you essentially, you're just following whatever other people are doing. So my invitation is always to be flexible and to keep a curious mindset, but also to stop and think about what the next step you're about to take how it will benefit you, and how will essentially take you to accomplish that last long-term goal that you want to pursue. So again, just some key takeaways. If you want to connect with me, again, you can go to the grad division website. This is our grad.ucc.edu. We're a research on campus as well. So if you want to connect, please let me know. That's all I have as far as information goes. And thank you all for engaging in the chat as well. Please don't go anywhere. Let's go ahead and have a conversation. So I'm going to go ahead and stop my share.